going to call the Lake Quinsigamond Commission meeting to order for February 27th. Thank you all for coming. The world is ruled by those who show up. The first order of business we're going to do tonight is the election of election of officers. So, what is the board's pleasure?
Can I be Sergeant of Arms?
You can be captain of arms. You have any nominations for chair?
I nominate Peter Collins for chairman.
I'll second.
Okay, I'll accept that. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Abstained? Okay, so voted. So nomination for vice chair. Trustee vice chair.
I'll nominate Mike White.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, so voted. Nominations for treasurer. It's come to my attention that our current treasurer has served for us for 4 years faithfully. We thank him for that because would like to retire from that position. So, is there anyone on the board who's interested in doing that? And
Ken was.
I think
Ken
Ken was interested in it. Captain, did you?
I nominate Ken Polito.
I'll second that.
Can we do that? Because doesn't
Yeah, I
it say
think we
yes?
can if we want. With the commission, the Lake Commission,
All right.
we can do that.
Ken, I know you're watching from home. So,
I think very highly of Mr. Polito, so I'd like to speak on his behalf, that I think that he would make a great treasurer.
okay, I just hope he's good with money. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? All right, congratulations, Ken. Call in. So, I think that's it for election of officers. Okay, so we have approval of meetings from the November 2018 meeting. Did everyone have a chance to look that stuff over?
I have, and I'd like to make one comment.
Sure.
Actually, I probably should let Bill do it. It says there are a few rows on a lake must be in groups of 4 or more. That's not really correct. It's
That's been
4
corrected.
oars.
It's been
It's
corrected.
been corrected? Okay.
Okay. 4 oars or more?
4 oars or more.
Okay.
So that could
Two
be, that
two
could be
singles,
different.
yes. 2 singles, 2 pairs, 1, 4, and 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the double oars, 2 oars.
Right.
Right. Okay.
How much
So,
that work, Mr. Commissioner?
outside of that, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Make a motion that we approve the minutes from the November 28th meeting.
Okay, is there a second? Very good, John.
Second.
Second? All those in favor?
Let's try it.
Aye.
Aye, okay. Any opposed? And no abstain? Okay. So voted, cool. Treasurer's report. Do we have,
No expenses.
no expenses? That's all good, right? Cool. Anything coming in? No.
Not at this time of the year.
All right, no, nothing. All right, good. All right, so Commissioner's report. I will start with that. The first order of business is that the re-impoundment of the lake, i.e. putting the dam back up and letting the water in, filling the lake up, is going to start on March 1st, which is Friday. At least that's the schedule unless something happens in this weather-wise to prevent that, but that's the plan now. So per our permit, we're supposed to have it back up to normal pool by April 1st, so we want to give ourselves plenty of time to get that rolling. So although I prefer not to start bringing the lake up and there's an ice cap on it, there's an ice cap on it now, so that's going to happen. And my feeling is, based on what I've seen in history, that'll probably be gone by the time we get to April 1st anyway, but let's hope that's the case. If not, anyone at home who's got anything in the water right now, your docks or anything like that, keep an eye out for an ice flow. And to remind everyone that you can't break up the ice to, anything that's unnatural, like with your boat or anything else. So just be aware of that. And the other thing that I want to bring up in the report is that we had our first meeting. We talked last year before we adjourned for the break that we were going to kind of look at the rules this year and update them and make sure that everything is buttoned up neat, and we haven't done that for a while. So we had the first meeting of the Rules Committee. Captain Steele was part of that, and Angela, and so.
And we did a very good job.
We did.
And Angela did.
You and Angela did. And Mike Liberty in the back there, and Barbara Sahagian, and we had the theme was to have to have all the stakeholders involved in it. So that we wanted to have someone from the rowing community, someone from the towing community, someone that's the fishing people. We had a representative from DCR. We had a representative from community sailing. We had the board members that I just mentioned, and the Watershed Association. So we want to make sure that we look at this from that standpoint, that we take everything into consideration. Not everyone's going to get everything that they want in these kind of things. Our goal here isn't really to rewrite the whole thing. We just want to make sure that we approaching this in a smart way, and we modernize it for anything that exists today that may not have existed when we created the rules the last time. So that worked out pretty good, and it's going to be an ongoing process, and we'll report back here. I'm hoping for next month we'll have a little bit better report about where we are, and maybe some recommendations that we can make at that point. So, Jack, were you there that night? Did I forget you that night too?
I was not.
You were that night. Okay. So, I just want to leave you out if you weren't. So, okay, that's about it for my report. Mr. Pica.
A couple observations, Mr. Chair. From going out in the ice, looking through the holes that the ice fishermen make, it doesn't appear that the ice has gotten as thick as in seasons past. Presumptively, that means there may be ice out sooner than later. And in fact, with the large winds we've had in the last few days, the ice cap is starting to move around. People know what I'm talking about. There's chunks of ice that have gotten free and are flowing here and flowing there. And as Mr. Chair, you said before, people ought to be aware of the fact that, particularly at this time of year when there are, heavy chunks of ice pushed against the shore, if you have a dock that's made out of like metal frame or something like that, don't be surprised if it crushes and crumbles under the weight of the ice. If, again, relative to Mother Nature, the wind is blowing that way, and that's where the ice flow kind of is forced and up onto the shore. There's been some stories about one of the Great Lakes, Lake Erie recently, that had a whole bunch of ice that got pushed up against the shore and did some damage. So that's life, unfortunately. Mr. Chair, I believe I personally have seen the male or female eagles nesting, sitting in the nest. So it seems to me that the eagles may in fact be nesting again, sitting on some eggs maybe at this time.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Aren't they going to freeze?
It's amazing.
That's
but
pretty
I think
cold for eggs.
when you know the habitat of eagles, this is when they lay their eggs, right about now.
Wow.
Look it up. It's just, I find it incredulous too. It's awful cold. Other than that, Mr. Chair, I don't see as much activity on the lake this winter as I have heretofore. It may be relative to the fact that the lake kind of froze late. It hasn't been that thick. But it's just an observation. Other than that, Mr. Chair, that's about it at the time being. At some point in time, I would love to know a little more, Mr. Chair, about how things are going with, since comes to mind, the Whitler Drive pump station, and I know they've been working on Route 20 in terms of the subterranean structure of the sewage pipes virtually all winter. And this, I mean, it doesn't almost look like they've stopped. So it seems to me that project must be moving along. I'd just be curious to know when the Whitler Drive pumping station is going to actually get online in terms of its new role. I'm going to put it that way, of pumping sewage from that area up Route 20 to the Blackstone Regional Treatment Plant. It just seems to me they're moving along, and I'd just like to know about the timetable on that at some point in time. Other than that, Mr. Chair, I believe that's it at the time being.
Okay, thank you. To tag on something, it's not just aluminum or metal structures on the lake. The ice will take anything in its path. So it'll take a wall, it'll take your wood dock, it'll move a tree. So it's very, very powerful. The hydraulic force is incredible. So just, again, be aware of that moving forward. And is there a possibility you could climb up the tree and see if there's actually eggs in there at some point? Because I know you go out to the island all the time.
Yeah, you've been on that.
Drone, there may be some regulations in terms of harassment of an eagle by a drone, but a drone might be able to do that, Where's Mark? He's gone.
He's gone. He won't do it. All right.
Did the baby eagle come back to live with the mom and the dad, or
No.
does that go somewhere else?
They go.
Yeah, they're not welcome back in the
No,
nest.
they're not.
Did they come back to the island, or did they go?
They choose to go where they do. They roam
Yeah.
about 500 to 800 miles.
Yeah. So, and I don't know how big of a range you can have, because when we were talking about the eagles, I was fortunate enough to go out there when they tagged them, so we got a good lesson on eagles at the time. But they the DDT is what really killed them off. That's why they were so rare around here, and they stopped using that. Now they're coming back. So I think the thought is they're going to probably repopulate. And they're spreading out now, but it's going to get to the point where, like anything else, like development of houses in Shrewsbury, they're going to have to, live a little bit closer together. So we'll see. It'd be exciting to have more than one family on here, I guess, if you're not a muskrat or a goose. So, all right. So the next Officer Valera.
I just have a couple of things. We weren't able to put the signs up on the new bridge. It was too cold, late fall. So we're going to put those up early April, once it starts warming up. And we'll get back out there. We had to take the boat out because it was tough to even start it. We kept it in too long. Other than that, Officer Amato, who's been to a couple of meetings, sat in the back. He's a full-time 3 to 11 boat operator. He and I are going to be, if I'm not here, he's going to take over the meetings for me and update anybody on anything that's going on the lake, and if there's any other problems, he can address them. I spoke with Tom Burbank from Environmental Police a few weeks back, and he's deployed for a year to Afghanistan, I believe, so we won't have any help from him. And Dustin Burrows will not be out this year, as he just got back from being deployed and he's having shoulder surgery. So don't plan on seeing too much help from the environmental this year, unless it's extra work that they're hired for details. So other than that, we'll try and cover what we can, depending on what Worcester's plan is this year. It's still early, still got a couple months. So.
Okay, I'll try to call the captain in Worcester and see if they're going to provide you folks for the boat this year.
I'm not sure if they were able to purchase a boat, but I'll wait till he gets.
He was hoping to use.
He's going to use ours.
Maybe get towed behind it in a raft or something.
I have nothing else.
Okay, so one question I had about EPO, because that was one of the discussions we had at the rules meeting, and when they do an event and they get a permit from DCR, it comes with a stipulation that you got to have appropriate amount of law enforcement, yes?
Yes.
And that the environmental police have kind of right of first refusal of the shift?
I
or-
believe it's a state permit, so.
It's a state permit, so they,
so-
if they're, is your thought that if you know, if they're gonna be sparse, and I know those guys, there's not a whole bunch of them anyway,
Mhm.
so if there's those kind of events,
Well, I know
will we be able,
Patrick has
will we be able
called
to?
us to try and fill it with us
Yeah.
last year.
Well, that's my question, is that something that we can do, Shrewsbury can do,
Of
you know, fill
course,
in?
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, it's, I mean, I like to have it local, period, because you guys,
Well, we're the ones
Seems-
controlling the lake and doing
right,
the
and
calendars.
you're more familiar with the events and the surroundings and the, you know, so I think we have less problems with that, okay.
We were able to fill most of them last year that the state backed out of, so.
Yeah, did that happen, did you guys get called at the last minute, how's that work?
I don't know how it happened. Well, I think they backed out for a couple of events. Patrick would know better, and then they called us and we filled it immediately.
Okay,
So
all right, so, that's good to know. And Worcester, same way, you think,
Regarding the details,
or? Yeah.
generally what happened last year was the environmental police did the details they had to do. Shrewsbury did the rest of them.
All right.
And the one that he's talking about, they called our guys in at the last minute. We were gonna send a couple of, one of our guys, but was it environmental ended up showing up or something like that?
I think so.
Yes.
Yeah, they called us like on Friday for Sunday,
Okay,
and then Saturday we canceled our guy because they showed up for Sunday.
okay.
But,
But I guess the question is, are you available?
yeah, we're gonna be on the lake again this year.
Okay,
What we'll probably do is, we're gonna probably use the public safety boat if it's available and it's running. And when in that's not, we'll also work together with Shrewsbury, find out when they're going, when they might need a guy, and when we have extra people, whatever. But
Okay.
that's how we're gonna do it. One of the things that we had talked about at our meeting was getting together with Worcester Shrewsbury, looking at the days at their events, to schedule a regular patrol on some of those. Did you guys do that sometime, Sean? Have a regular patrol when there was an event? Well, you guys don't go
No.
until 3 most of the time though, right?
We always, 99% of the time, we have a guy out there at 3 o'clock. It's all
Yeah.
evenings. We don't have enough manpower to do it
Yeah.
during the day, so I do it 2 days a week, and then Kyle is covering 4 evenings, so.
So I was gonna look over the schedule for the daytime events when Rowan was gonna do it and try to schedule the guy on the daytime, to day relief. But we'll see how that shakes out.
and you guys, and regular said Kyle and yourself, you're out there,
We're the two primary operators.
and you're out there solo
Yes.
when you're out there?
Yes, unless it's gonna be a hot weekend, or, you know, it's gonna be busy, we think it's gonna be busy out there, depending on manpower, they'll put an extra guy out, fill for overtime, but it depends.
Okay. Is that something we could collaborate between the city and the?
Yeah, and we did that. Did we do it last summer or was it the summer before?
We didn't do it last year,
Was the summer before?
yes.
Yeah. Yeah, we can do that again this year.
Okay, and that's all. Captain Steele?
That was the sense of my report.
That was it?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to steal your thunder.
There was no investigations beyond that on the lake.
Okay. Mr. Polito, report about the Treasury. He's not here. Scott's not here. Amanda's not here. Mr. Smitis,
With no report.
no report? Okay. Mr. Nelson,
No report.
no report? All right.
The new commissioners, we like that brevity.
Okay, try to get out of here before the storm, right? Update on refilling the lake, all right, we talked about that. Review and the act in the following requests, and we have a representative here from QRA. Yes? All right. So we have requests for applications for the Quinsigamond Rowing Association to host spring regattas, crew races in April and May, and request to close the boat ramp for 8 of the events in May, which we have a calendar here, right? With that information on there. And
It's actually 9 events.
9 events are gonna close?
Yeah.
Did they add one, or?
Friday, May 3rd. It's not on the spreadsheet, but it's on the, we have the application,
Okay,
and that one's at 12 o'clock to 7 o'clock.
12 to 7.
Yeah,
When's Memorial Day? Is that the 22nd and the
That's the
25th?
27th,
20, yeah.
27th?
yes.
So we're not closing it that day, right?
No,
I mean, that weekend?
What's the date? May what?
May 3rd. It's for practices, so it's from 12 o'clock to 7 o'clock, and it is a boat ramp closure.
Memorial Day is Monday the May 27th.
Yes, okay. So we have closures on May 3rd, May 4th, May 5th, but it's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That's all day on the 3rd?
No,
And the 3rd
12
starts
o'clock
at
to
noon.
7, yeah.
12 to 7, I'm sorry. Okay. And May 11th and May 12th, that's the next weekend. And then the weekend after that, the 17th and the 18th and 19th. Also, so the 17th is also a practice. Is that also 12 to 7?
the 7th is a regatta.
7th is regatta.
Okay,
17th is regatta.
we got it. 17th rather, yeah. And that's it for ramp closings.
Have
In the
a question?
October ones,
Oh, it was October,
You-
sorry.
Are we talking the fall already too? Okay.
Can I ask a question? The 25th, Saturday the 25th, for the New England schoolboys, the ramp is going to be open? Okay.
Is there a,
Motion for acceptance, Mr. Chairman?
where,
To authorize
do you have
this?
the October? Just 1 second here.
the October is not on the spreadsheet, it's 10, October 12th is 7 to 3, and then October 26th is 7 to 7, and October 27th is 7 to 7, and the 26th and the 27th are boat ramp closures.
Angela, will we be able to send a new
Yes,
spreadsheet out?
yeah.
I can't write all that.
These are ones that weren't on. Okay.
Okay, so 26th and 27th in October is the only days they're closing the ramp. Yes,
In the fall.
in the fall. And the 12th they're not. And we're paid
Yes,
for the whole,
for the whole season.
for October? Okay. See, that was
I love it.
easy.
This is great. I'll come
Yeah.
every time.
This is an easy one.
Bring it on.
Bring it on. I like the spirit.
The
So
boat
voted.
closure is gonna be when we might need someone, to the environmental police. We're gonna get in the
Let's
lake.
say dates here.
For,
Well, what we were talking about the other day, when they need to travel the lake.
right,
To Worcester trouble, those are the dates.
Those are any dates.
If it says, if the ramp's closed,
Yeah.
the ramp's closed yet.
then they're using the whole lake.
That's correct. Well,
Okay.
No,
there's,
to the bridge.
Yeah, well, oh, that part of it.
well,
Well, I mean-
October's different though. October's the head
That's
race,
the
right? So
long one.
that's the other way.
Right.
Right, so, I think even during the race when the ramp's not closed, it's still, during the actual tournament, there's still a no wake zone there, and there's still
Yeah, but
only
you
one.
hire Shrewsbury police for that, right? They hire Shrewsbury.
Yes, they do.
They
Yeah.
only
They
use
do hire
they only use environmental.
Oh,
Yeah,
because
every
it's not a state
time,
permit?
yes.
Okay, gotcha, okay, yeah, all right. So that's, so, and Sean, you have probably more experience than anyone in the room with this stuff, is that when there's a, because that was a question that came up, we were trying to figure out when is actually unsafe. Say a boat's traveling, a resident's coming up from the north end of the lake, and they're putting, no wake along the eastern shore there, where they're supposed to be.
Yeah, we just sit at the bridge, usually one guy at the bridge and then one at North Quinsigamond boat ramp, 2 boats, and we tell them headway speed only, and then if we do see them throttling up, then we can just grab them.
Okay, and, when you're looking down the course, that was one of the things that came up, because the EPO kind of shuts you down. They'll stop people from going down, because when they're looking at the race, it looks chaotic.
I know in the past, there's been confusion, they're telling them, whoever the supervisor is working the ramp is telling people one thing, Shrewsbury is telling them another, but residents should be able to go north and south
Right,
on that,
it's part of the permit,
on that
right.
eastbound side of the lake to to go back and forth headway speed only.
Right.
But I know there's been confusion in the past, but we
Okay.
tried to, when Billy was around, we rectified that. Shouldn't be any more problems.
All right, good. Okay. So, motion to approve, I think we already had that,
I don't know if I did, Mr.
No.
Chair.
just for,
Motion, do we approve?
okay, and second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So voted.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And a request and application for WPI to host robotics. Did you get a filled out one?
Yes, you sent it to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Nobody's here.
No one's here from the,
So
okay, are there any questions about it?
theirs is for June 3rd through June 7th. It's during the day. It's from
Yep.
9 to 4. They're working with Regatta Point Sailing Club.
It's gonna be kind of in front of that.
Right. And they
area.
would do the same thing they did last year. I didn't hear of any issues.
Okay.
They're
And-
not
and-
restricting public access.
So they said, bring it on. All right. Is there, anyone, any discussion, questions?
It's a Monday through Friday.
Right. This is the race
Well, it's robotic sailing, so it's,
you were talking about, Roger, with
Is this the first time they've done this?
they did it last year.
Oh, did they? All right, I don't know how I missed that.
So,
Make a motion, Mr. Chair, that we accept the application for WPI to host a robotic sailing tournament on June 3rd to the 7th.
is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So voted. Discussion for Quinsigamond Rowing Club to host a Masters Regatta in May. There was a conflict with the date, so the proponent withdrew the request, and they're gonna come back with something else, I guess. And review and possibly act on setting dock rates and permit fees for 2019. I think what we were talking about, yes, for 2019. So, we've had the same rates, I think you had some in your, a rate sheet in your packet. Looks like this. Did everyone get this?
No,
Just
I
me?
think they just got the application that says what the rates are now.
Okay. So basically, do we have any idea when that was changed last?
2003?
2003?
It's been a
Been
while.
15 years, or 16 years. So we did this $25 for a new dock application fee, $35 for a new or replacement plate, $25 for a sticker, and $75 if it's a commercial dock. So what are your thoughts on bringing this up? And to kind of preface this, this is one of the things, when we went to get budget requests from Shrewsbury, I think also the city mentioned it, and certainly the state mentioned it, that they wanted us to be kind of, they want us to be equal contributors as much as we can. And, you know, the pushback from Shrewsbury especially was that, you know, hey, these dock fees are really inexpensive for having a nice dock on Lake Quinsigamond, but when we come, you know, we're asking the cities and the town and the state to contribute. The budget request this year is going to be for $35,000. You know, we pitch in a like amount. You know, in order for us, right now, I think we're getting $11,000 to $12,000 annually for the people who do pay for their docks, around that.
Yeah, it's about 400 regular docks and about, I think she said 25 commercial docks, something like that.
Right, and so I think that's the figure. Now, to bring it up to 35,000, obviously, we'd have to it'd have to be a pretty steep increase. But what I would like to do is to set in motion, you know, to step it up incrementally over time. Now, maybe not every season, but at least so we're heading in that direction, so we can help support this. And, you know, I think from year to year, we're not gonna, you know, we may not be able to depend on the appropriations because there may not be any money in the, you know, in the till for us to tap into. So, so it's a big part of the, it's 20% of the budget that we need to do the stuff that we're doing now, which is expensive. You know, we have an aggressive management plan, yes.
Oh, finish. I was to make a comment.
Oh, so yeah, so we have aggressive management plan for treatments, and we're adding things on like testing and stuff that we'll talk about in a minute. But so we need to, you know, we need to bear that in mind as we raise the fees. So, but I don't want to do it. I don't want to, you know, load it on somebody. I don't want to do it crazily. I want to do it, you know, incrementally and appropriately. Sorry.
No,
Yes.
sorry. First of all, I'd like to say that the letter that you sent, or not sent out, but composed, certainly makes a great point and is a good foundation for raising the dock fees to a reasonable level, given what we're trying to accomplish here with those dock fees. So I think all we have to do in this letter is just add an amount to it. I think it's very well done. I would wonder if you have any way of knowing what dock fees and other bodies of water might be, so that we can be somewhat the same as everybody else. I agree with you, we don't want to triple the dock fee this year, raise it incrementally, but to what level do we raise it and be reasonable and commensurate with other bodies of water around? Do you know?
To be frank, I don't know. I mean, I think Webster Lake's like a $25 fee to launch a boat. I'm not sure even they charge a dock fee. You know, we have a unique situation in that, you know, we're one of the few bodies, the Lake Commission was one of the few bodies that have the authority that we do to actually even charge a dock fee. Because, you know, most people revert back to the Commonwealth to do that. And the Commonwealth charges, they have a different schedule because they only charge, I think, once every 10 years or something like that. It's not the same as us. So, and this fee was instituted for the purpose of supporting the efforts that we have on the lake for weed, you know, invasive weed management and law enforcement and education and things we need to accomplish. And Mr. Piker can kind of go back in histories from when they first instituted the $5 rule, and the watershed was not too happy. That's the first time I ever met Mike, actually, for those meetings. And they weren't too happy about the $5. But I think, you know, today Mark would be hard pressed to, I don't want to put words in his mouth, to argue against having a dock fee, or to, you know, because of the important work that we do with the money. And, well, you know, 100% of the money we get from the dock fee comes to the Lake Commission. There's no fee. Shrewsbury doesn't charge the fee, even though they manage the money, kind of. And so, you know, it's all coming to us. And you know, we spend every you know, dime of it on something that goes into the lake, not. You know, so
Right.
that's what.
That's-
But to answer your question,
well
I don't have a good handle on it. One thing about our decision tonight is that, you know, we want to get the applications and renewal forms out into the mail. I think before we meet next. Yes.
Yes.
So. What I'd like to do also is to this year is to put this discussion on the November agenda. So when,
Right, for next year.
so yeah, so we're not kind of doing it at the last minute.
So you're thinking of an increase for this year, or we're gonna talk in?
I'm thinking of an
November about
increase for this year.
So we're doing increase now,
Yeah.
and then in
And next year, we
November
may,
talk
we
about
may
when-
decide to do an increase for.
Again?
Well, we may say, okay, we're gonna do an increase in 2021. You know, I don't know, but to have the discussion in the fall instead of the spring, where you know, we're under.
So I'm not against it.
I don't know how you would come up with a number other than pulling something out of the air. And I don't think that's a good way to do it. I would like to make a suggestion as a point to start from. Let's assume that inflation has been 2% a year
Mhm.
for 16 years. So somebody have a calculator could figure out what that is, but to do it incrementally, say, okay, we haven't raised the dock fees for 16 years, let's do a 2% per year inflation rate for 7 years, or 5 years. And then next year, do it for another five years, if you will, and then we'll be up to 15 years in 3 years, and incrementally raise it that way. Did I make that clear? Or did I confuse everybody?
That's clear now. Mr. Chairman, if I'm not mistaken, we raised about 11,000.
Yeah,
We really need to have about 35,000 is what we should
that's
eventually end up
that's
at.
the goal today. I mean, it's a moving target, I guess, but.
So that means at some point in time, you're talking about $75 fees for those docks, if you were gonna do it solely by raising dock fees.
Right.
And I don't know if we have any other manner of doing it. So what we're probably talking about is at some point in time, dock fees are going to need to be at $75 just to get what we need right now. Is that correct, annually?
It's, I don't know, I'd have to take my shoes off to do the math.
But I was under the impression that it was about $30-something thousand we needed to contribute to the
Right.
care of the treatment of the lake.
So if that is our only revenue generator, you
That's-
know, besides, I mean, we're getting incremental money from, rowing and, you know, the event fees and things like that. Technically speaking, that we can charge a boat fee for boats on the lake. That's something that's been in the charter for a long time. We've never done it.
My sense is $75 is too much money to raise it to, but
Oh,
that
no,
would-
I don't think
that's
we
the
should do that
amount
at
of
all.
money that we would be talking if we
Yeah.
were gonna be trying to raise the money we need.
Right, so at the end, so when we get it up to where we want, we get up to where we need it to be at 35,000, to be $75 a dock, is that what you're saying?
Well, I think people should be made aware that by the time we get to the end of this, the dock fees are gonna increase substantially.
Okay.
We may have someone who wants to speak.
Yeah,
Hi,
Hi.
Ann Zedek-Sumner from North Quinsigamond and also a dock owner.
yeah,
And I've been attending meetings long enough to know that a particular issue has been raised before and attempted to be addressed. But I think that it's very important that we consider the fees that we need and trying to honor our other supporters. But I think you'd find a lot more acceptance and participation if we were able to successfully deal with the fact that there are numerous docks that either have no plate on them or don't have a current sticker in place. And that would substantially, if there were a way, a way to ensure that all the docks were part of the pool contributing to that.
Yes, yeah.
I think that would make the raising of the fees a lot more palatable and supported by those of us on the lake who are following the letter of the law at the moment.
I think that's a fair point.
Can I ask a question with respect to that? Do we have a set-off time that where people are supposed to get their dock fees, and everyone who doesn't have it afterwards, say, pays double?
Well,
Yeah, there is-
$50 a
is a
day
fine.
fine if you don't pay by May 31st.
Okay,
And it's more money if you don't pay by May 31st, right?
$50 a day.
Yeah.
okay.
But
I
it
thought the
has to
fee
be-
went- I
has
thought
to
the
be
fee went up.
enforced, and then
Is that
Right.
enforced?
It's a 90B citation. and then you
But
have
it's
to
for
go
the
to
state,
court.
it's not for the lake
Right,
commission.
and the experience has been, and again, Sean can speak this better than I can, it's a frustrating experience, because a lot of times, I think at one time, correct me if I'm wrong, the judge actually,
I, just to let you know how it's done, I'm checking every plate that's actually on a dock out there, writing them all down, confirming with the secretary to see who's paid and who hasn't. Whoever hasn't, we're sending out letters, giving them time to pay. If they don't, I write a citation for it. Well, I wrote 80 citations 2 summers ago, and they threw out 79 of them in court. So it's...
That's a lot of
it's
work for nothing.
Yeah.
Hours and hours of my time for them to just
right,
poof, throw it out. So,
and time spent away from when he, when, for safety things. I mean, with the dock thing's a whole different issue than, I mean, some of the dock is a safety issue, but, it's a whole different issue than, patrolling the lake and making sure that things are safe out there, so.
one other thing. That, finding out who, I know we have a list at the station, people who pay faithfully every single year, but there are a lot of docks out there that don't have plates, a lot of docks that are still in the water that are decrepit and falling apart. It's literally a full-time, that would be a full-time job, just doing docks all summer, trying to figure out who owns the house, who owns the property, who's got a dock here, whose boat is this, whose boat is this. It's a full-time job for probably 5 guys.
Yeah. Okay, here's my question then. With all of that work for practically nothing, if we raise the fee, say, as you said, we need 3 times as much in several years, could that just exacerbate the problem, and there'll be a lot more people not paying their dock fees because there's no penalty?
Yeah.
That would be my question. 79 of 80 have been thrown out. For what reason, I don't know. I'd ask you what the reason is. But if they're throwing them out, why are we even considering putting a dock fee in? People just aren't gonna pay it because they know nothing's gonna happen.
Well,
Do we have any authority to collect?
They
Apparently
went to
not.
a clerk's hearing, I had to go in and testify to each citation, and they basically say, well, you agree to pay it this year, and don't forget to pay it next year. Yes, okay, dismissed. So it's,
Do we know if they paid?
I believe they all did. I never had any problems. Cindy never told me that they did. Most people came up and paid.
Okay,
Once
so
they got the citation.
So once they get the citation, they went to the hearing, they were told to pay, and they paid. So we got the 80, we dismissed the case, we didn't get the fine,
Okay.
but we got the 80 times
Okay.
$25. So,
And we got them added to the list to pay every year, hopefully.
which it may or may not. I can attest to half a dozen of them out there right now that I know that don't have plates on them.
There have to be more than 400 docks at this point. There's gotta be 100 not registered.
Right. And Flint Ponds, did you go over there too?
I can't get over there with our boat. I have no access. No access, so it could be, we've had this boat since '06.
Right,
They may not have paid since '06.
right,
I wouldn't know because I can't get over there to check the docks.
okay.
So anybody who's watching right now, pay it because I am gonna check this year now.
I was just gonna say, shut the camera off for a second while we discuss this. But,
Find you a boat.
Or on jet ski.
but borrow a jet ski or, getting a transportation fee, comfortable, safe transportation fee to do that will not be a problem, Sean. So if that's something you wanna, do, then we'll make it happen. We'll make it happen that we can get out there and, so, I don't think that's the way, it's not a reason not to do it, but I wanna make sure that we're getting as all the money we should be getting from the very start. That's a good point. Yes?
So, Paula Collins from Flag Road. So if the docks seem to be a difficult thing to enforce, but we can charge a boat fee, and this, for people putting boats in, I'm not understanding why you wouldn't take the path of less resistance
What do you mean?
and charge
Oh,
for boats.
Charge the
and-
boats?
And try to get the money that way. It seems like the docks are, there's a potential for money there, but it's not, people aren't participating, and it's difficult to enforce, versus the boats, you put the boat in or you're not. You're not putting it in, you're not paying the fee, it's not going in, there's no chasing anybody, there's no fine, there's no,
The boat fee, the challenge with that would be that if you'd really have to get them at the ramps, which means we'd have to staff the ramps, and both ramps. You have to staff both Oak Island and Corazini. So that's a charge against the money. And I don't think it's a bad idea, and I think that's probably how, if we decide to do a boat fee, that's how we'd have to do it. There is also an opportunity to fee other structures that are in the lake as well, besides just the straight dock side of stuff. So, for our purposes, considering that having in mind that we do make another effort to go out there and make sure that the people who are supposed to have plates on their dock have plates on their dock, and are paying their renewal fees every year, then, you know, I guess we'll propose that in the thing that, you know, we want to have everything, we want to have everyone supposed to be paying, be paying. But I don't know if that should stop us one way or the other from
Mr. Chairman,
increasing the fees.
make a comment.
Yeah.
I want you to understand that I did not think that dock owners should shoulder all of the costs of doing this.
No.
I just simply wanted to discuss what we needed for money and how
Right.
much the dock fees, because if we end up raising the dock fees to $35, I want everyone to understand that they're not gonna be paying 100%. I agree that I think that the fairest way, it would be unfair for dock owners to pay for everybody else's use of the lake. Because that's what it essentially comes down to, is that everyone has to dock is paying for everyone else who uses the lake. So I agree that eventually we need to look at all fee structures, but I'm just simply saying, as we discuss increasing the fee, I want everyone to understand if we were to increase the fee to $35, that dock owners would in fact not be paying all of the money that it takes to run the lake
Oh, no.
for us. But that's why I just, like I said, we hadn't reached that, like, how much money it would be if each dock paid.
Right.
So that if we do raise it, they understand that we're not looking for 100% from the dock owners.
Okay, good, thank you for clarifying that. Yes.
Also, Mr. Chair, correct me if I'm wrong, Angela, you would know, but isn't there somebody from the town of Shrewsbury who post themselves on summer weekends at the Corzini ramp and collects a fee, which then goes into the Shrewsbury's general fund?
No, it goes into a revolving fund, but the fee can only pay for expenses for the boat ramp,
Okay,
and it has to be approved by the state.
okay.
And
It
any,
pays for like the bathrooms, the docks,
Right.
the electricity for, you know.
and any increase
Thank you.
in that has to be approved by the
Trash.
state.
That may need to be articulated at a meeting like this from
Yeah.
time to time, so people understand, well, wait a second, don't they collect fees, and what happens to that money? Well, that you just kind of answered that question, or call it that if you want, and I think that might be good for the general public's knowledge, as they might, if not here tonight, watch this on TV and get a sense of, well, where does say that money then go? So, thank you.
Okay. So, I guess, that said, any ideas? Is a $35, increase to $35? What would be 2%? Does anyone-
Figure it out right now. I don't have a calculator.
10% would be $2.50.
Yeah. But doing it,
So adding
$5 is
$10
20%.
well,
about 40%.
What's that?
$5 is 20% increase.
right. 2% would be $27.50.
So
No,
we
wait,
mentioned,
2% over, we're doing an
Wait,
incremental 2% over
over a few
10
years.
right?
That's
So
what I'm
that's
trying to do.
20%.
we've mentioned the word about too much. What would be too little that it wouldn't be worthwhile doing? Because this would bracket the area.
No, you're right.
$35 gets you about halfway where you want to be.
40, that's a 40% increase. So you'd have to then apply 40% to the 75, since you want to apply the same percentage to both of them.
Do we have any anecdotal ideas from the people that actually pay the boat dock fees?
We all say $5 is the consensus.
And then the parks does.
About a $5 increase?
I don't think you go up more than that.
$5?
The first year.
Okay. I mean,
No, and I think that's important to know, that
Yeah.
That can be a quick.
what's the traffic
I
gonna
think that's what
bear?
it is.
And then make sure everyone's paying.
No, I think that's very reasonable, Mr. Chairman.
all right, so $5 across the board, like
Okay.
each of the fees?
I would suggest that if it's $5, that's 20% for the residential one, it should be 20% for the other one.
Yeah.
Which would bring that to $90, right?
$5 is 20%?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right, okay.
Oh,
Right, okay, you're right,
20%,
okay, yep,
yeah.
I'm thinking, okay,
it'd
yep.
be 15
20%.
out of the 75.
So 20%, so do a 20% increase. Is that what we're saying?
And that brings the other one to 90, 75 to
Yeah.
90.
So
Okay.
one gets a $5 increase, the other gets a $15 increase. Because it's 3 times bigger.
So the residential rate would go from 25 to 30, Mr. Chair, relative to the suggestion. The commercial rate would go from 75 to 90. And what about the replacement of a sticker or plate that was 35? What would that go to?
42.
42, right?
750.
Yep.
750.
42.50?
Don't do 50 cents.
Yeah.
43?
It's $7, trust me.
43.
Just raise that $5 too, and everything stays, you know.
42, so everyone says, so, yeah, you don't want any,
If you just do 40.
40,
you know,
okay.
You're trying to encourage people to get them.
Yeah,
all right, 40, yeah.
So 30,
30,
40, and 90.
Okay, that's fine.
Which one's the 44?
The 40's for the replacement plate.
How much those plates cost nowadays?
I'm not sure, we just,
I think they went up, those went up.
Cindy orders them, but
Like $15, $20?
they last a while. We get a big box of them, and then she just orders new stickers every year.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'll
I'm
make a
assuming the
motion.
cost of that stuff goes up.
And I'm sure there's some people out there who would say, you know, we pay high enough taxes, how could you do this? Well, I'm gonna do it, because we do need the money to help the lake, period, okay? You want to enjoy the lake, but also you don't want weeds, you know, you want shallow water markers taken care of, you want better enforcement and all, and we, you know, it takes money to do these things, and that's just a reality. So, Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion that residential dock fees will go up to $30, to replace a plate and or sticker, $40, and a commercial dock fee for the season would be then go from $75 to $90, Mr. Chair.
That's a motion? That's the
Yeah,
form
I'll
of
make a motion. We
Okay.
can further debate it if you want, but.
Is
I
there
would second it.
a second? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Okay, so voted.
It's not a huge increase for all those people out there. And again, people who live on the lake will say that they pay extra taxes on the lake. Mr. Chair, excuse me for making some extra comments, but let me just reinforce the fact that to do some maintenance of the lake, and it needs maintenance, we need money. So
Okay.
we're not squeezing people for all they got. This is really, come on, it's a relatively small increase. So thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. A discussion of a subcommittee for a rule review, we already did that. Unless anyone else has any other things to add on to that. And continued discussion of safety concerns on the lake. You know, the only safety, I mean, there's a bunch of safety concerns, obviously, that we I think that kind of goes part in hand in glove, I should say, with the rules. That'll help us do some. There's some things that initiatives that I'd like to take regarding, boat licenses and things like that is something that's out of the scope of what the Lake Commission can do, and we'll have to advocate for that separately. But I think we need to get our rules tightened up in a way to enforce them, make it safer. My main concern, to tell you the truth, after our discussions last fall, is really not just the safety of the folks using the lake, but the safety of the people watching over you, the law enforcement officers. So that's really going to be my focus over this season, is to make sure that these guys are have the resources that they need to do that job safely, and because the last thing I want to hear or experience is that one of those guys gets hurt, dealing with some knucklehead out there. So, any input into that? Luckily, there's been no one on the lake so far, so we haven't worried about it. But skaters.
My thoughts, Mr. Chair, relative to increased recreational use of the lake, this will inevitably come up again in the future. So, Fortunately, we haven't had any tragedies. We haven't even addressed it where someone fell through the ice this year. Last year was front page news on the Herald on a Saturday, if anybody remembers it. Somebody skating fell through the ice.
Right. They were trying to save a puck.
Yeah, a hockey puck.
Yeah?
So thank goodness, hasn't
goodness-
happened so far
Thank
this year.
goodness the puck was saved.
So,
All right. And we have a budget request. Last fall, I'm going to ask Mr. Liberty to come forward if you don't mind, or Jacqueline if you want to come up. And we had a discussion about, adding water testing onto our management plan to make sure that we have that. I mean, we're, Lake Quinsigamond is again, in the middle of a highly developed and for a long time, for a couple hundred years, we've been a densely developed, both in terms of residential and commercial all around us. We have 3 major highways spanning it. We have over 400 outfalls, yes? Coming into Lake Quinsigamond from all sides of us. And like I said, including bridges off the highway. There's been tremendous improvements over the time, with the city of Worcester's continues to improve their sewer system, has upgraded their plant at Lake Ave in the tune of $6.5 million. They're in the process now of rebuilding Whitler to increase capacity there, take a little bit of heat off of Lake Ave, but if the development in Shrewsbury goes through, I think some of that's going to get neutralized out because there's going to be a lot of
capacity.
stuff flowing downhill from that development into the Whitler pump station. That said, there's still a lot of places where we have no idea. I mean, I think in a large measure, we have no idea what's coming in to the lake. So we also don't have a lot of experience in doing this, but I think it's something that's important to the commission that we get in front of this and collaborate with the people around us who do this, including the Lake Quinsigamond Watershed Association and Worcester's Lakes and Ponds and the Upper Blackstone Collaborative as well. So, because we're a major contributor of volume to the Blackstone, and we're forming those things. So we talked about adding this thing on here. Mike is going to fill us in on the manifestation of where that's taking us, where we're going to start off.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Board, and thank you. My name is Mike Liberty with the Watershed, Lake Quinsigamond Watershed, and as the Chairman had mentioned, last year there were talks about trying to figure out what testing was being done to the lake, and by who, the frequency, and what was being tested. So I called and talked to many boards and found out, or entities, that there's basically 3 components to testing on the lake. The City of Worcester, through inspectional services, the Department of Lakes and Ponds through Jacqueline, Burmeister, and the town of Shrewsbury with the Water Department, and DCR, who monitors only Regatta Point and Lake Park. So with that, I reached out. I tried to get some results, some data, even though I'm not a scientist, just some collect data to no avail, just to try to find out what was happening, and it kind of came to a stalemate. For whatever reason, not able to get that information. So we were left here. Then, ironically, in November of last year, I was made aware of a grant sponsored by the Baker-Polito administration through the DEP that was out there, an opportunity to apply for a grant through 501(c)(3)s to monitor bacteria during this upcoming 2019 season. It's being offered, the grant's being offered to, like I said, 501(c)(3)s that either are established to support and boost their program, or to help start one. In the case of the Watershed Association, it's a starting effort. We do not have any experience, nor anything to fall back on. So at that point, I hooked up with my partner in crime, Jacqueline Burmeister, and she came up with, where do we start? And she came up with a pretty good idea. To start with, to try to learn from this process, qualify for the grant, and start in a manageable, small enough project where we can develop a program, implement it, and also do some testing. Jacqueline suggested test the beaches of Lake Park and Regatta Point. And you'd say DCR is testing down there. Why do that? But what we've seen from Jacqueline's efforts over through the state of the lakes from 2012 to 2016, the beach closures per day have been relatively minimal. You could probably count them under one hand. In 2017, last year's State of the Lakes report showed that Lake Park had 18 days closed. Regatta had 14 days closed. 2018, which facts that are going to be released in the new State of the Lakes report coming up in March, that we went from Lake Park having 18 days last year to 55 days this year, shut down to recreational swimmers. And Regatta went from 14 to 67. So we're focusing on an issue there that is a project at hand. Like I said, DCR is testing there right now. They're testing with a different method, but that's a uniform method. We're not questioning the method the state's using, but we're trying to compare results and see what is actually going on. It's startling because not only have we seen an increase, but in the number of reports and postings, exceedances they call them, that go above the minimum of bacteria allowed in those areas, but we're actually seeing, the days that the beaches are closed. You'll say that, well, the people are still swimming. They are swimming, but they're swimming at their own risk. And the city was to hands out pamphlets and tries to inform the public, of the risk they're taking. If you have open, we don't know where it's coming from, but if you have open sores or anything, ingest the water, it's a good place to start. It will allow us to, like I said, develop the program. And the problem is right now is that with the grant application, we don't have the time personally to commit, so we want to go through, as a starting point, is to go through using an intern person that we would hire through a college or through a university that would develop a QAP, which is the kind of the recipe for how you would test the waters, that would give the state credible information, data that they could upload to their database. It would also, confirm, is it a protocol method? Is it a type of testing? Is it personnel? Our idea is to go down at the same time as the DCR to test at the same timing, same days, twice a week, that they're testing, so we can emulate the same conditions. When we applied for the grant, it's a $13,000 program. We have participation from the city of Worcester. The way it would break down is that we would fund through the grant this water quality monitor that would be responsible for writing the new QAP, that would develop the testing method. That person would then actually sample the water, take the water, deliver it under the chain of custody to the lab. The lab being the city of Worcester, who has offered and committed to testing the results, testing the water samples, and then returning the samples, the data to the water quality monitor for analysis, compiling the results, and then uploading them to the database in the DEP. Problem is that when we have to spend, due to the state budget restraints, we have to spend our grant money we have to spend what's granted to us by June 30th. That's their, end of their fiscal 19 period. So to make the back half, but testing still needs to go on after that period, from July 1 to October. Our program is October 15th, so that we can totally capture the recreational season for 2019. As I don't know if you're looking at the spreadsheet that I supplied to you, that will give an idea of what our estimated costs are to keep that testing going for that water quality monitor. But right now, we're looking to see if the commission would consider funding that back half of the testing for the water quality monitor. I think it's a good idea to have all the parties, where it's a startup for us. It's a good idea to have all, like, we consider rules, we have all the parties at stake to get into this, to discuss what's going on. It's the same thing with this. The Lake Quincy Commission, the watershed, City of Worcester has always been there for us. And then also the Upper Blackstone has offered to help us as well, and they're a well-established organization. And believe me, they wanted to help more than enough. And so I think that this will grow. With the investment, the return to the board would be really not only the development of the program, but also this QAP, that right now we would be applying for bacteria monitoring, but we'd also list other tributaries and outfalls in our QAP that in the future, that's what we want to do, is grow this program to test future sites, depending upon what we want to look for. Do we want to look for bacteria, nutrients, chemicals? It's limitless. But it's a starting point for the board and for us, and we just hope that, that you would consider working with us on this.
So, can I?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, first thing, that sounds great. What's a QAP?
Well, it's a quality, it's a QA/QC program.
Right, but is there
An acronym
is
for
there
it?
actually the longer version of it?
Jacqueline, quality assurance
Quality assurance project plan.
project plan. So
Okay.
it's
So-
basically an outline but that's what makes your data credible to upload. That's what that's a deliverable to the state. If you operate under that instruction sheet that allows that funds, that makes your data credible, and the state will then accept it for future study.
Okay, so the QAP is necessary basically to move forward, to get credibility
Bible.
with the state as far as our testing
It's
goes.
the Bible to the testing.
So even if we didn't have a grant, and we were going to go down this road and we're gonna do our own testing and all that stuff, that we would probably, well, not probably, we would have to, in order to be credible with the state, we'd have to have, these would have to be under a QAP. We'd have to develop a quality program, yes? Is that true?
Yes.
So, what, and the amount I see here is $2,400 that you're asking from the commission.
Yep.
So, also from the budget standpoint, what you're saying is that the state's telling you, okay, here's a grant, we're gonna give you, say they give you whatever grant, whatever you ask for, we're gonna give you this money, you have to spend that money before, or by June 30th.
Yep.
However, the program has to go beyond that in order for you to get this grant, because we want this whole season to be tested to make it valid. And that you cannot spend, is this my understanding, is you can't spend money ahead of.
Yeah, you can't.
Like, you can't say, okay, well, we'll just spend all the money and we'll pay the guys after. You can't do
You
that.
can't
Like,
forecast expenditure.
You can't
No.
forecast expenditure, so you have to, it can't be anything that's beyond, so anybody you employ, our intern, for example, we can't pay them ahead of time.
Nope. It has to be for deliverables that, supplies, development, the QAP, which would be needed to start the program to begin with. So
Right.
those are kind of essentials, and then there's some kind of project coordination that's included in that. I have reached out to some universities, some colleges. I haven't reached out to Clark and WPI, but UMass Amherst has a program where they actually have an active grant from the DEP to assist in programs like this and writing a QAP.
Okay.
It's a pretty, extensive document, and this is probably the simplest quap for bacteria, as I'm told, that could be written. When I saw quap and then I Googled an example of quap for bacteria, QAPP almost turned to QUIT for me, because I didn't want to deal with a 135-page, a lot of it's boilerplate, but that just goes back to my experience.
It's a lot of work.
Not knowing what the
Right.
boilerplate is, to fill in the blank, so to speak.
And the watershed will basically oversee and manage.
Oversee, and then honestly, we look at it as an opportunity, when we have fundraising efforts, and, and we wanna go out and ask for contributions to the watershed, there's really not a lot of meat for us to talk about, in regards to, except beyond the fact, keep the water beautiful, and this is what, contribute, please. If we can establish a program that shows, a reason that we're, an actual physical data that says we're working with the state, and also demonstrate collaboration with the interested parties, the Lake Commission, the Upper Blackstone, the state, the city of Worcester. When they see everyone pulling together, one would hope that you would create more volunteerism, people wanting to get into an active program, as opposed to just, throwing $25 out the window.
Okay. Any questions?
I have a quick one.
Sure.
Is this a renewable grant?
So the idea of the state is that it could be perpetual, but it's only based upon funding. Right now, they're hoping to back, right now I can only represent what I'm being told, which is after June 30th, you're operating at risk. So we're trying to, but we hope to pay you.
Well, minimally, this is a startup grant anyways, to start up a program, which obviously you're trying to do right here. So you would accomplish that part of the grant anyways, is creating a startup. It appears to me that you're asking for us to pick up the monitoring after July 1st.
Correct.
And it looks like, I've got to say, it looks like you did a nice job on this. It's a spreadsheet I can understand, so I tell you, I like what I see here, Mr. Chairman, but that's the only question I really had about the grant.
Mr. Chair, a
Yes.
question. Well, $2,400, how much do we have in terms of available money? Is this 5% of what the commission has, 10%, 5,
Well,
Can
25.
can I just qualify that for 1 second?
Yeah.
That the way I look, this is all estimating for us in regards to what we think we'll need. And the way it's working with the state is that even through the grant, even though we were approved for the whole amount, we have to demonstrate that we use the money, this is a spreadsheet, but we actually have to demonstrate payables to that person. To that, whatever it is, for the supplies, it's receipts. So I would say that to you, that if it would be an up to but not to exceed at this point. And if we could deliver to you what hours were actually expended, then that would be an up to. So it wouldn't,
Okay.
it could be 1,200, we don't know.
All right.
But you have to advertise
But
with the
you're-
colleges for a certain amount of time,
All right.
and
So you're anticipating $2,400?
that's all.
Yes, John?
I just wanted to add that the grant is a new grant, and they do foresee themselves having this grant annually in the future and expanding the parameters to include other things, like Mike was saying, nutrients and other contaminants of concern. So while this year there is an ask from the commission to cover that back half, it is possible that in the future, once the program becomes more robust, that and they are hoping to be able to span the entire summer, that you would be able to apply and have the program covered under that.
Okay. Do you anticipate any time where, it would seem to me to make more sense that they did this process after June 30th, like, started July 1st, and say, hey, we're gonna have this grant and we're gonna pay for the stuff, for an entire season?
Yes, that's what I'm trying
You know,
to say.
so they actually give us, they grant the money so you can pay for that July through August, important testing. And then,
Correct.
the next season, you start in June with the remainder of that grant money, and they roll it over again to Does that make sense?
Correct, no, and that's what I was trying to communicate, is that
Yeah.
because it's the first year, they are trying to use that
So
money.
we're starting
before
at
the end
this
of
year,
the fiscal
okay,
year, But
all
in
right.
the future, the hope is that it will have a more logical funding cycle.
All right, thank you. Any other?
Again, do we have the money to spend, Mr. Chair, in terms of our overall
Yes.
budget?
Angela says we do.
Yeah, we do.
Yes, it-
Okay.
Yep,
Okay.
I have a question.
yes, of course.
How, are you coordinating this with DCR? Like, are they aware of this?
Matter of fact, at the rules meeting, I mentioned it to
Bob?
Bob,
Okay,
and I, briefly explained to him, now, we're not, we haven't been awarded anything yet, but I gave him a heads up,
okay.
and I had previously addressed this with him, and actually through you, to get listed on the closure list, and that was a topic of our conversation. There's some confusion that needs to be solved, and just in this one little project. So maybe we'll learn, I'm hoping to learn from this and then expand upon what we learned.
Yeah, my understanding is the Commonwealth has a different method they use to test, which is a viable method. But, the way the Commonwealth approaches this stuff is they're using the same test for every swimming area that they have, right? So, and which includes salt. In order to do the salt, it's a different test than fresh water, so they use a salt test for everything. It's still a viable test, I guess, but we're looking at doing a different,
E. coli, which is
yeah,
specifically used for fresh water.
right. So E. coli, not the,
Yeah.
it's a test, not the actual E. coli, but it's so that's,
Method.
it's gonna be a little bit different, and there's a discussion. So you can have a debate on which ones, is it beta or VHS, but, it's
Everyone
gonna,
knows beta.
exactly, that's where I put all my money. For me, okay, because I'm a believer that the Lake Quinsigamond Commission should be doing this regardless if we get a grant or we don't get a grant, to do this testing. I also believe that we should have strong collaborative efforts with Lakes and Ponds, with the Upper Blackstone, that have to, to bring all the players and stakeholders into the process, with the Watershed Association, of course, and the towns, as well, so that we know exactly what's going on. I know that the lakes are an important part of Shrewsbury's, the administration in Shrewsbury feels that way, and for me also, I think the universe works in mysterious ways, right? That we're planning on doing this, we talked about it last fall, and all of a sudden, we're getting a $13,000 project, and we only have to pay $2,400 for it. It's basically what it boils down to. So, because that would, if we did this on our own, and we started out with these two sites to learn where we're gonna go, and the other thing is the important part of the education we're gonna get out of this, is that, we're developing a QAP, we're going through this process, we're also going through a grant writing process. So I think this is a big win, and it's relatively inexpensive. We're paying, less than a quarter, less than 25% of this, to get this done. So I don't know.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to
Yes.
make a motion that this commission vote on allocating the monies requested of $2,400 towards this project.
Is there a second?
I second that motion.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? All right, so voted.
Mike, this, excellent job, thank you for doing that, Jacqueline,
Well-
thanks for working on this with us.
Thank you.
Like the chairman said, this is what we're really, we're looking, go in this direction, so I think it's fabulous you guys did this.
Jacqueline was a tremendous help.
Thank you very
So,
much.
Good help.
speaking of being a tremendous help, Jacqueline, would you mind if Mike stayed up there, because he's getting on in years, and he's got to present right after you, so.
This will be the last and final.
Before you mind if he does his, I want him, he's into the update for the Lake Quinsigamond Commission? I mean, for the watershed?
I don't know where I am in the schedule.
Yeah, you were next, and then
Oh, okay.
I noticed that he's after that. I'm
I
like,
changed your order.
Yeah. no
okay,
worries.
so it's not if I change the order? Thank you. So, will you please stand up and introduce yourself?
Sure, Mike Liberty with the Watershed. First one was, stealing some of Jacqueline's thunder, but I was thought I'd follow her, which was to reinforce the state of the lakes, which is coming up March 7th. I'll let Jacqueline elaborate on that, but
Okay.
I do encourage that is, I learned a lot from it last year. It's a great presentation.
Yes.
And, you know,
Yep.
that's what kind of sparked, there's some other areas, you know, around the lake that need some attention as to Jacqueline's work, that through that presentation, you'll understand where those targets are.
It's an excellent presentation.
That's great.
All right, we'll delve into that with Jack.
April, coming up, April 6th, thereabouts, coordination with Shrewsbury, town of Shrewsbury, we have a townwide Lake Quinsigamond watershed cleanup on the lake. I don't know if that date has been set yet, it's to April 6th, but it's usually on or about, where we would go up and organize a cleanup for the parks in town, but the lake is, Quinsigamond watershed is concentrating on the lake area. And we enlist some volunteers, always looking for volunteers. The town helps out tremendously with supplying bags to dispose of the trash. So it's a good program. We cleaned a lot of trash, and there's a lot more to go. Be surprised what flows in there. Following, just another announcement that over the course, well, actually, another one after that is, it says the REC, the Regional Environmental Council, working for Worcester, on April 13th, is having their annual cleanup, which it concentrates on the Worcester side, but there's a lot more they do inside of Worcester. And the watershed, through efforts of Chelsea Vokes, has partnered with Working for Worcester to organize and clean up Browning Beach and the East Side Trail. And the details.
Well, ahead of it.
Ahead of it, yes. I'm not too informed of all the particular details, but Chelsea has that under control. And then just basic things, what we, last 2 weeks ago, we met with the town, with Jeff Holland and Conservation, Brad Stone, and the engineering department to discuss how the Lake Quinsigamond watershed can partner with them on projects as a result of the stormwater utility program that we're all now mandated to participate in. And so we discussed some possible, nothing targeted, but some possible, just through spitball some ideas around what possibly we could do. So there'll be developments, you know, in the future for sure on that. But it was, the town is willing to work as well as we are with them to also help benefit, you know, the lake, and this can roll into the testing aspect of it too, because they're mandated to test outfalls and all things that flow into the lake as well, at least from the Shrewsbury side. So there's some opportunity there for us as well.
Okay.
That's all I have.
All right, quick question, Angela, on the April 6th date for cleanup, you supply
Trash bags and gloves.
trash bags and gloves?
It's
And-
a tentative date right now,
Right.
Okay.
so
And
we'll.
and what about pickup? What do you
And
guys,
then we pick
they
it
just throw it back in the lake
No.
in bags, so it's
No,
it's
we pick it
compartmentalized?
up.
Okay.
Now, last year they came down to Oak Island
Yeah.
and with a pickup truck from the town
Right.
and picked up
I know that's going past.
tires and all sorts of stuff.
Oh, yeah, it's a joy. It's a joy down there. And I want to thank everyone, by the way, who last year, and I hope they come back, because I saw some new faces. You know, usually go down there, it's the same old people, and I saw people, I was literally surprised to see them down there doing stuff, totally unrelated. You know, people from the rowing community, which we really appreciate, were down there in force. You know, picking it up, so,
You know, if I
and totally away from the, you know, it wasn't even near the course, they were on Oak Island, the people I met. So, you're shaking your head, were you there that day?
We have community service projects with our teams as well. I
Okay.
coach at WPI.
Yeah, that was really
And-
appreciated. That was
and
pretty
all
cool.
of our schools have programs where the kids do cleanup, and that was a big project
Yeah,
this year too.
my friend Jared, he's an alum, he's not even, you know, he was there, I was like, this is great.
Mr. Chair, if I could just add to that, we live on the lake, we use the lake, we're all stewards of the lake. We all need to keep our environment clean for our and future, people's enjoyment. We all are stewards of the lake. We need to keep that in mind, It's not for them to take care of, it's for us. It's us, it's not your lake, it's our lake. We need to all contribute to try to keep it as clean as possible. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Well said.
Thanks for your support.
Michael, thank you very much. Jacqueline? Big envelope.
My name is Jacqueline Burmeister with the City of Worcester Department of Public Works and Parks, Lakes and Ponds Program. As Mike was just saying, we've been working for the last few weeks on developing that grant, and I'm really excited about the participation of the Quinsigamond Commission, the Watershed Association, and everyone else who is making it possible. I think it's a really great opportunity for the Watershed Association to build out its membership and get some really valuable data on an issue that the lake has been facing for the last few years. So I'm really excited about that, and we'll see soon how that goes. I guess the main thing I wanted to address tonight was formally invite all of you to the City of Worcester Second Annual State of the Lakes event, which will be taking place on Thursday, March 7th at 6:00 p.m. at the Blackstone Heritage Corridor Visitor Center. This is this beautiful new facility that was built in Quinsig Village in Worcester. And it really celebrates the history of the Blackstone River and what it's contributed to the region. So it's a really appropriate place to have an event about the lakes in the city. Of course, one of the lakes that we feature in the presentation is Lake Quinsigamond. We'll be sharing the results of our monitoring program. We spent 14 days last summer out on Lake Quinsigamond taking samples, sharing those results, as well as the exciting efforts that we have to improve water quality both there and at the other lakes and ponds. So I really hope to see you there. We actually have been collaborating a little bit with Peter over the last few weeks to create a poster representing the Lake Quinsigamond Commission, talking about what you do, your purview, having some great photos up there of you, and I really hope that there will be someone from the commission there to field any questions other people might have as they see your poster. So I have these for you if you want to take a flyer. I could...
Jacqueline, one quick question, because I know the captain's going to be wondering, will they be providing refreshments there?
There will be refreshments. Yes, so it is around dinner time, so we always make sure to keep
Except adult
people...
beverages there,
Good
right?
question, John. I'm glad you
There
brought
will
that up.
not be adult beverages,
Okay.
just soda.
State of the
So-
lake, I like it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Will
So,
President Trump be there?
This, I've only seen two of the posters that Jacqueline did, but they're really outstanding. So amongst her many skills as a scientist and, all around, superhero in the lake, you can add desktop publishing to her credentials. So that, they really were, nice job on that.
yeah, and I think that's about it. So we'll be starting up our monitoring program again in late April, early May. We will once again be doing the training for the citizen science initiative that we have going on in Worcester, where we invite people who live near lakes, not just in Worcester, but in the surrounding towns as well, to learn how to take water samples to collect data on cyanobacteria, which are then added to a national database that's used by EPA and other researchers to understand just the temporal and geographic dynamics of cyanobacteria, which is a pressing concern in a lot of lakes in this region. Thankfully not in Lake Quinsigamond at this time, but Lake Quinsigamond has participated in the past, and we hope to see you continue participating in the future.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Go in my agenda, and we're not done yet.
Setting the date of the next meeting and a review of
I thought we were
this
down to
year's
that
tentative
second.
schedule.
So, you all saw the schedule. I expect every one of you here, every single time.
I had two questions on the schedule. Well, I didn't know
Didn't you
if
make the
wanted
schedule?
Yep, and there's 2 dates for July. I didn't know if you wanted to do the 4th Wednesday or the last Wednesday.
Can we
Same
do
thing
both?
in October,
Um,
so it's up to,
what,
you can do whatever you want.
the written thing is the fourth Wednesday, yes? Or is it the last
You
Wednesday?
say the 4th Wednesday or the last Wednesday, because you can,
Anyone have a preference on that? Whether we do the 31st or on July, or,
You're probably likely to have more people on vacation on the fourth Thursday in July than the last Thursday in July.
all right,
Because you're almost in August, a lot of people are on vacation in July.
okay, so,
Talk about Wednesdays.
Because, you know, the season, you're on the shoulder of the seasons by
okay, so
August.
do the 31st, is that okay with,
Wednesday, July 31st, Mr. Chair?
yes. And October,
so then stick with the last Wednesday then, October 30th, just to keep it.
yeah, I mean, last year we had to move it, right, because it was Halloween,
Yeah,
so,
So we know in advance not to make it that one in October.
so this is Halloween Eve,
right, so it should be all set then.
okay? Should be okay, unless we celebrate that. All right, that's good, we don't have to vote on that, right? And, so the day for next meeting will be March 27th.
That's correct, 7 PM.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chair.
In a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, so voted. Thank you very much, everyone.